I will win her back once again. He's saying, I will pursue her. I will go after her heart. I will win her back. Winning means that there's a fight, right? I'm going to fight for my spouse. I'm going to fight for their affection. I'm going to win them back. Even if I feel like the one that isn't pursued anymore, even if I feel like the one that's forgotten, I'm going to win back their affection. I'm going to win back their love.
Welcome back to the Greater Marriage Podcast. We are the Millers, and we're so glad that you're joining us today. Okay, right out the gate, marriage is work.
A lot of work.
A whole lot of work. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how to make each other feel wanted, because I think it's so easy to kind of lose sight of that and then realize that we're not pursuing our spouse at all. We're just kind of existing.
Yeah, man, life is busy.
Yeah.
And you get busy and I think that you can get in your own head. We talk a lot about expectations, managing our expectations and not allowing one another to have unfulfilled expectations, right? You've got to communicate those. And I think that it's easy to get busy with work and life and kids and sports and all the things that we do to just kind of think, oh, our marriage is good. And just go on with life and never actually focus on our marriage, never actually focus on us, right? We're so focused on everything else that it's easy to just kind of let that person that sleeps next to you just become a partner or a roommate and just go through life and never really take it seriously or never really pursue one another, because it's like, well, it's like the old man that said, hey, I told you I loved you when I married you, and if anything changes, I'll tell you different. It's like, no, we need to be pursuing one another every single day. There are multiple ways that we can do that, but we've got to make each other feel wanted. I think that a lot of people in marriage just feel unwanted by their spouse. Like, no, I know that you love me. I don't think that you like me. And it's like, no, I know that maybe you're happy here, but I don't feel like you want me around. I think it's convenient, our marriage and the kids and the work and all the things. We've gotten used to it, but I don't feel like that desire is there anymore. I don't feel like that like hunger for one another is there anymore. And that pursuit is there like when we dated or like when we first met or whatever, when we first got married or whatever.
It's just kind of like you settle into your lanes and you just kind of live there.
Yeah, for sure.
You just live side by side instead of really pursuing each other and making an effort to get into each other's worlds. Although our worlds are intertwined in so many ways, still making each other feel wanted is such a big deal.
Yeah, marriage is a lifelong pursuit of your partner. It doesn't stop at the altar. I think a lot of people think, we've talked about this before, that the altar is like the finish line. Like, we did it, we got there, here we are. And it's like, man, that is the blocks. That's the block, because that's where you're starting. That's where it all begins. And it's this lifelong pursuit of one another and winning one another's hearts every single day and winning one another's affection every single day. Man, marriage is covenant, and covenant is not casual. When you look at the Word of God, covenant is very serious. God takes it very seriously. He loves us with a covenant love, and it's an unconditional love. And man, covenant takes sacrifice, and it takes cutting, and it takes this like two becoming one. We've talked about that, and I think that there are several ways that we pursue one another. I think we should maybe break some of those down, because I think that we can pursue one another practically. I think that we can pursue one another physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And so you want to talk just a little bit about how just practical, everyday pursuit of one another, how we make that happen?
I mean, I love the practical because
you're very practical.
I'm a black and white personality. Acts of service are my love language. And so practical is where I live.
I'm very ethereal. Like, you just tell me and touch me and I'm good to go. Like, I don't need you to do a dang thing. Like, I am very ethereal. I'm a dreamer. I'm like, it doesn't need to be practical at all for me to love it.
Well, practically, I mean, some of these I think are going to seem so elementary, but I think that we all need these reminders, these resets of how easy it really is to pursue each other. It doesn't always have to be this big extravagant thing, but making you feel wanted can be something very, very simple. So for me, an example would be, because I am, an acts of service person, side note, we would encourage you, if you have not already, to figure out what your spouse's love language is.
Figure out what yours is.
Figure out what yours is, and then take time to study each other's. I think one of the most beneficial things that we did in the early years of our marriage was we had done the love languages test, but then we took another test called leading from your strengths.
I think we took every personality test that exists.
Because we were so opposite and could not figure out how
It's like, what are you? Who are you? Oh my gosh.
But leading from your strengths, we'll link that because it's an incredible resource.
That's great.
It's worth every penny that you pay. It sends you this massive outline of not why you are the way you are, but with your personality type, why maybe you process things differently. And I remember reading through yours and just being like, I cannot relate at all to any of these.
Man.
But it helped so much for me to see your intention in things, for you to see, okay, he's processing it this way. It's not that he's checking out. It's that, this is his way of processing or whatever.
And it will call you out.
Yes.
Like you take a personality test, it will call, I know this one specifically was like, when you're in a disagreement with Dustyn, he will try to use his words to talk his way into. And
Ain't that the truth?
Do not allow him to use his words to overpower you. And I was like, oh man, I was not hoping she'd figure that out, but
okay,
now
well,
she
we want
knows.
people to actually take this test.
No,
so...
we do. Take the test. It is worth it. It is worth your time, and it'll, like I said, marriage is a mirror. The test is a mirror. I mean, marriage is about exposure, and you're going to see every flaw. You're going to see every bit of who you are, who your spouse is. Man, take the time to share that with one another. I think it was helpful to read mine and realize, because it'll show you areas of weakness and areas of strength.
There's some self-discovery that happens.
For
in that.
sure, but it was even more helpful to read yours and to realize your strengths and to realize that something that I may have seen as a weakness was actually strength. And it's like, no, actually, we can help one another here. Like, I could use that. I need you to be strong in that area because I'm weak in that area. And I think that maybe you should allow me to step up in this area because that is something that I enjoy and it is something that I'm good at. And you just begin to see very clearly. And it shows you how to pursue one another. It's like,
remember that one time when you really, when you really wanted to take over the finances?
Here's the deal. I don't know that I wanted to take over the finances. I think that, our personalities, again, are very different. And I look to make sure there's money in the account. And if there is, I spend it. Right. And
You
it's like,
don't even look.
Well, maybe I don't.
Let's be honest.
I also don't really spend. I put gas in my truck and grab lunch with a dude, a couple times a week. And that's about it.
Okay, so I am usually the one who pays the bills,
Yes.
manages the budget, all the things.
Yeah.
And there was a time in our marriage where you thought maybe you would be better at handling that.
I thought maybe I just wanted to stop being asked, hey, did you want my Jack in the Box? Hey, is this McDonald's? Was that you? Hey,
felt
Chipotle
guilty.
Twice this week? Was
Okay,
that you?
No, that is such an exaggeration. That was on the heels of some fraud transactions.
It was.
So I was trying to make sure, looking out for us, looking out for our
Yeah,
finances,
unbelievable.
that they were legitimate, because I don't know why someone would go to Jack in the Box.
I don't know if you've had their tacos, 2 for $1 with the buttermilk ranch, but oh my gosh, it'll change your life.
Anyways, Dustyn wanted to take over the finances.
I did.
At that point, we had already done the test and figured out that it was probably in our best interest for me to run the finances, but
Yeah, I think our pastor at the time said there's a nerd in every marriage
Yes.
and let the nerd run the finances. So I was like, okay,
proud
nerd.
to be the nerd.
Try. Give me a shot. I think I could be the nerd. I think I could do the finances. I think I can manage it.
Well, you did not succeed at being the nerd.
I don't know that I got through paying the bills. Like,
No.
I think
You
I
made it a
looked
week.
at it. You're being very gracious right now saying I made it a week.
welcome.
I don't know that I made it a week. I appreciate that because I think I literally sat down, looked at the bills, looked at the budgeting app and was like, nah, you got this. Like, if you could just squeak in a little budget for me,
For Jack in the Box.
I'm not going to question this and you just do you little budget. That is all that I need and you can handle everything else and I will help as much as you want me to help. but I think it hurts. I think I'm not helping at all. So
Yeah.
I think you managing it gave you peace. It gave me peace, and we figured it out.
We found our roles.
Found our
All
roles.
that to say, though, practically, once you can figure out what your spouse's
Yes.
roles are, being willing to jump in, even if, like in this situation, it wasn't successful. Some other things that you've jumped in that have been helpful, if usually I do most of the laundry, but for you to just hop in, throw in a load of laundry, fold some towels, like that makes me feel wanted. It makes me feel seen. Like you see what I'm doing. And then not just that you see it, but that you take another step. And that is a way that we can pursue each other. Maybe it's something as simple as opening the door for each other. Maybe it's, you hate the times that I've done this, but me sneaking in a quick mowing of the grass for you so you don't have to do it when you come home.
Man, here's the deal. We live in Oklahoma, okay? And it's hot and
Yes.
humid, and there's nothing worse than like coming home from a long day of work and seeing your wife, who you have prayed for her to be able to be home with the kids. And, like just our kids do go to school, like they're not homeschooled, but still like you get the time to drop them off and pick them up and just be with them. And to see you outside sweating and mowing is just like that. You can't do that. Like, that's my thing.
I do
That's
it
my
for
thing.
you.
Well, and you love it. You
do.
enjoy it. You enjoy it more than I enjoy it. I don't like it, but obviously I do. I'm the man. I do it. I think that I need to own that. I need to be the one getting hot and sweaty and going out and mowing. And I think you just love working that edger down the sidewalk and just
it's
seeing
the
that
best part.
clean line.
The last
and
5%.
all the things. But that is a way that you serve me. That is a way that you
Yes.
pursue me. So that I can come home and immediately jump in with the kids and immediately jump in and just spend time with you. And it's like you do such a great job of knocking the tasks out and so that my time is sacred, right? When I get home in the evenings. And so, man, find ways to pursue one another in just a practical way. Guys, be a gentleman. Chivalry isn't dead. Like, open the door for your wife, leave a note before you leave in the morning, or, if you're headed to the gym, like, throw the kids' bag or, get the kids' lunches together, throw them in the bag before you leave. Like, just doing small things to show your wife, hey, I see you, I care about you, I care about your time. Give her a little extra time to get ready in the morning. However you guys manage your home, that's great. Like, you don't have to manage your home the way anyone else does, but practically go out of your way to just put your spouse first. Just simply putting them first and showing and reminding them, hey, I see you and I love you. Maybe it's a midday text. Maybe it's dropping something off at their work. Maybe it's dropping off, a drink or a coffee or just whatever. Just a quick phone call at lunch. Hey, how's your day going? Like, just want to tell you I love you. That's it. Like, I have no agenda. I'm not checking up on you. I just wanted you to know I love you. Do you need anything? And that's it. And I think that those are very simple, practical ways that we can pursue one another.
Okay, so practically we've talked about how to pursue each other. What about physically pursuing each other? I think that's probably what people think about first when they hear the word
Sure.
pursuit.
Sure, and I think that men and women are very different, and every marriage is different. Sometimes in a marriage, the woman needs more physical contact. Sometimes the guy needs more physical contact. In our relationship, I'm the physical touch one. And so for me, it's managing expectations and pursuing you in a way that doesn't make you feel like I just want your body, right? Like initiating physical touch that doesn't lead to sex or doesn't lead to anything. Just walking by you and touching you, just just randomly coming up and wrapping my arms around you while you're having a conversation with somebody, kissing you on the cheek, letting you know I see you, I love you, I'm thinking about you, right? Like you matter to me. I think that you can get lost in public occasions and parties, or we're at the church doing whatever, and it's like you can just, I know, like we'll go to church, sit together, and then after church we'll kind of meet each other at the car, and it's like, hey, what have you been doing for the last hour or 30 minutes or whatever? Like we have our own conversations, and you're grabbing kids one place, I'm grabbing kids another place, and so it's. And same thing with parties or whatever, get-togethers, we're hosting people at our home, whatever that is. Just letting one another know, hey, I see you, and just initiating some type of contact, some type of something where it's just like, hey, like I'm here, right? And I'm paying attention to you, and even if I don't use my words, I can still initiate that contact. And then at the end of the night, like for me, it's like I'll massage your back, I'll massage your feet, I'll do something just again to show love and care. It's like, hey, if you're going to chill with me while I watch my 100th NFL game of the season, or while I watch yet another Thunder game or Cardinal game or whatever I'm watching that you have no interest in whatsoever, like I'm at least going to if I'm not focused on you and I'm focused on the game, I'm at least going to show you, hey, I see you, right? I'll rub your shoulders, I'll rub your feet, whatever that is. Just, gentlemen, just a simple massage while you're watching the game or while you're watching the movie or whatever. Even if it's a movie you're not interested in, get interested in your wife, right? Like, hey, you watch what you want to watch. I'll just focus on your feet. I'll focus on whatever. You know what I mean?
Well, there's a difference in sexual touch and non-sexual touch.
For sure.
And generally...
For some.
Generally speaking, I would say that women probably need more non-sexual touch before they can, get to that place. And so realizing that and using your day throughout your day as opportunities to kind of fill that tank along the way really goes a long way. And so even if it is just a simple, when you're walking by, a shoulder squeeze, grabbing their hand, a quick
little butt tap,
a little butt tap. Dustyn loves the butt tap. Doing that will benefit you much more in the long run by the time you make it to the end of the day or whenever that moment is.
Yeah, and I think that also just simply complimenting one another's physicality, like complimenting each other's bodies and letting, like, obviously our bodies change as time. Mine changed a lot. I was like 225 when we met, 210 when we got married, then I was 195, then I was 175, then I was 195 again. It's like, it's like my body's changing a lot. And for you to even just compliment me or say that you see, work I'm putting in or whatever, like, that means a lot and it goes a long way. For me to compliment you or like to want to see your body, like to show that pursuit of one another, it's like that matters. It matters that you pursue one another physically and show that you're still interested in one another, and that you care and that you still love your spouse's body no matter the changes, and that you want to communicate that as often and as clearly as you can. In whatever way your spouse receives it, right? And some people, again, receive it differently, or you don't want to ever make it be offensive or weird or whatever, but you want to compliment your spouse in the way that they feel most complimented, and maybe ask them, hey, like, how would you like me to pursue you in this way, or what makes you feel the most pursued, right?
And a little tip for the husbands too: if your wife is currently pregnant or in her postpartum stage, wow, complimenting her body speaks volumes, because I think a lot of us as women, seeing our bodies go through those changes, while it's the most incredible and miraculous thing we've ever been able to experience, there's still a piece of our flesh that maybe struggles with that a little bit. And when things don't necessarily bounce right back, right after you have a baby, there's maybe a little insecurity that can creep in. And so having a partner who knows that those vulnerable moments are moments that we need extra is a really, really big deal. And so make sure that in those seasons, you are affirming your spouse more than ever, because they really need it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think another way that we can pursue one another, and I think that this ties into especially ties into the physical, is pursuing one another emotionally. One thing that a mentor told me early on is that you can't touch her body until you touch her soul. Like, I can't expect a physical connection until I have an emotional connection. I want to make sure that I touch your soul. I want to make sure that I speak to who you are and that I pursue you. And I haven't always done a great job of that. I think as men, we think that, like, we're a light switch, right? I've heard the comparison that men are can lights, women are Christmas lights. And a can light, they all work. You flip the switch, they're all coming on. They all work individually. I can take one can light out. All the other can lights work good to go. Women are Christmas lights, where you put them on, they're beautiful, but you pull one light out and a whole section goes dead. So it's like, you got to make sure you're checking on the individual things and the sections, because if a whole section is dead, none of it works and none of it looks right, right? And so you've got to make sure that you really are pursuing each other emotionally. Have eye contact when you're having a conversation. Listen to one another. Ask questions. Care about their day. Care about what they've done. It's like, we're in a season where Heather stays home and where I go to work, but coming home and caring about like, hey, what did you do today? It's like I think that sometimes we can get in this mindset of like, well, I worked and you were home, whatever. But like, I want to have that
You
mindset
feel like
of
that?
never, ever in my life. I'm talking about other guys listening to the podcast right now, not ever me. But it's like, what do you do all day, babe? It's like, it's 40 loads of laundry done. When did you do that?
And then I go out
like,
of town and leave you with the kids for a few days,
Oh,
and you're
man.
like, oh.
Listen, I love my kids, and I am more than happy to do any housework ever, but nothing makes me appreciate you more than when you're out of town. And it's like, holy cow. I think you outwork me, 10x. It's like, I work my butt off at work, but man, I come home and it's like, it's unbelievable. But make sure that you communicate that. Communicate to one another's emotions.
Yeah, I love that. I was just thinking about just the Lord's intentionality and how, the comment that you said about you can't touch your body until you touch your soul, and just more confirmation of why the Lord intends for sex to be experienced in marriage only.
Yeah,
because
there's an order.
Yeah, that order of, falling in love, that order of first connecting on a soul level and then a spiritual level and then a physical level. What a cool picture of exactly what we're talking about, how it happens in marriage also.
Yeah, and one leads to the other, right? Like, pursuit opens the door to intimacy. And I think that, we're going to talk about intimacy in an upcoming podcast, but it's such a big deal that you lay the groundwork and that you're intentional. And I think that there's a really great picture. I want to talk about the spiritual side first, but I want to get into Hosea 2, one of my favorite passages on marriage. And it's such an odd picture, and I'll get there when I get there, but I'm excited to talk about that here in just a moment, about how God pursues us. We learn to pursue one another because God pursues us. Despite our faults, despite our failures, He has pursued us and He has called us to Him. And He's called us to this same ministry of reconciliation that we were reconciled to Him. And so we can learn that His pursuit has never stopped. Even through hardship, even through hard times, even through the infidelity of His people. We'll see that in Hosea, like that He called Israel His wife, and that she was seeking other gods and seeking affirmation elsewhere, and He still continued to pursue her. And I think that no matter what happens in your relationship, you have to continue. You have to make a promise to yourself and to your spouse that no matter where we are, I'm going to pursue you. And I'm going to hear you out. And I'm going to lay the groundwork to make sure that this thing works. Marriage is work, and it takes work to come together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, it's in Genesis 2, it talks about the leave and cleave. Like, there's this cleaving part where we come together and we're joined together with one another. And I think that that's part of that pursuit, is we've got to continue to pursue one another at a very high level. And I think that happens spiritually as well. Like, that is so important that we connect and pursue one another spiritually.
What does that look like for you then, pursuing your spouse spiritually?
Yeah, and this one is funny because some of these things may not seem like very clear-cut pursuit of, like, my pursuit of you. But I think that from a spiritual aspect, number one, praying for one another and praying with one another is huge. That is such an intimate moment to be able to find verses to pray over your spouse and to pray with your spouse and to find things to believe God for and to stand in faith for, because you get to celebrate those moments together, and it just brings you that much closer together. Right. But I think another thing is to serve together. I mean, you've got to be planted in a local church. You've got to have a house that you're planted in. And you can't forsake that gathering together, as the Word of God says. Find a local body, find accountability, find community, and serve together. Serve at your church. Find a place where you can have common ground. Even if you serve, I don't even know that you have to serve in the same exact area, but serving your church and having a common goal of, man, we're going to resource the local church with our time and our talent and our treasure, right? I think that that's very important. And then I think that one thing that you can do together through the local church is join a small group. Yes. Find people that are in your stage of life that have common interest, and go to a small group together. It'll be a very clear picture that you're not as crazy as you think. It'll be a very clear picture that your marriage isn't as bad as you think, that everyone struggles, that everyone goes through hard times, that everyone has trouble communicating, that everybody has trouble getting on the same page sometimes, that, it's like, when you get around people that are doing life the way you're doing life and that have common goals and are in the same stage, young kids or young marrieds or whatever that is, whatever your stage of life is, man, find people in that stage of life to do life with.
Yeah, being vulnerable with other people, there's a lot of freedom in that too. There's victory in vulnerability. And so having those people that are literally in your corner, I mean, we have those people that no matter what we're going through, we can pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I need you to go to battle with me. Right now. And there's no replacement for that. The Lord was very intentional about his design for the local church and for that community. We need each other. We need other people to come alongside us and hold up our arms when our arms feel heavy. And we become fulfilled by doing that for other people too. It's not just a one-sided street. And so that is crucial in pursuing each other, which seems outside the box a little bit, but in doing that and finding that community, it really is pursuit of one another because it strengthens that bond that you have together.
For sure. So I want to take just a moment and kind of break down Hosea 2. And I know this is getting a little bit deep, but this is one passage that I use a lot when I do weddings. When I officiate a wedding, I go to Hosea 2, and it's kind of like I said, kind of an odd, because if you read the first half of Hosea 2, it's God talking to his unfaithful wife, Israel, the nation that has despised him, turned their back on him, gone to seek other gods, gone to seek affirmation elsewhere, gone to seek the fulfillment of the promise elsewhere. And he just has this harsh reproof of them and pours out his wrath on his church and on his people.
Probably like most of us would do if we were in a situation with an unfaithful spouse. That wrath would certainly be on display.
Right, but now we live in a new and better covenant.
Yes.
Where all of that wrath and all of that judgment has been taken out on Jesus. He took it all for us, and he forgave us. Even when we were sinners, he continued to pursue us. Even when we were broken, he continued to pursue us and to love us and to extend forgiveness to us and to extend his grace and his mercy, right? And through that, we then extend that same grace and mercy and forgiveness to one another. Yes. And so if he's not going to hold anything against me, how dare I hold anything against my spouse? And that's why I love, there's this one word, two words really. He says, but then. After this wrath, he's saying, but then, after all of this, after everything that I took out on Jesus, that we don't have the right anymore to take out on one another. Here's what he says. He says, but then I will win her back once again. I love the header of this is the Lord's love for unfaithful Israel. That no matter how hurt you are and no matter how broken your relationship is, you can come back. Because you can pursue her. He says, but then I will win her back once again. He's saying, I will pursue her. I will go after her heart. I will win her back. Winning means that there's a fight, right? I'm going to fight for my spouse. I'm going to fight for their affection. I'm going to win them back. Even if I feel like the one that isn't pursued anymore, even if I feel like the one that's forgotten, I'm going to win back their affection. I'm going to win back their love. I will lead her into the desert and speak tenderly to her there. He's saying, I'm going to lead her away from the noise, away from the distraction. And I'm going to speak lovingly to her, even though I feel hurt, even though I feel like it isn't perfect. I'm going to speak tenderly. I'm going to get her away from the noise of family and of friends and of life and of distractions. And I'm going to speak tenderly to her.
I mean, that's exactly what we were just talking about, the power of community, of being in community. If we're surrounding ourselves with people who are speaking life over our marriage, even in the most difficult situations like this of unfaithfulness, who can speak life, I mean, that's so powerful versus being surrounded by people who are just noise. The fact that he exemplifies that she had to be pulled away from the noise. Who we let speak into our marriage is such a big deal.
It's huge. We always pray for friends that love, refresh, encourage, and challenge us. That is what a friend looks like to me. Someone who loves me, encourages me, refreshes me, and challenges me. If you don't love me, if you're discouraging me, if you're exhausting to be around, right? And you're not challenging me and holding my feet to the fire and keeping me accountable. Like, what kind of friend are you? Those are the kind of people that we want to surround ourselves with.
Right.
He goes on to say, I will return her vineyards to her and transform her valley of trouble into a gateway of hope.
Wow.
I love this because he's not just saying, hey, I'm not going to hold anything against you, right? He's saying, I'm going to take this trouble, this hardship, this hard thing, and I'm going to transform it into a moment of hope. Like, this is now, it doesn't just mean I write off the bad things, but I take them and make them a place of hope in our relationship where it's like, hey, I don't just not hold this against you. I see this as a building block for us to get better. And I'm going to transform your valley of trouble into a gateway of hope. She will give herself to me there as she did long ago when she was young, when I freed her from captivity in Egypt. Did you want to say something about that?
Yeah, it just hit me that he says her valley of hope, or her valley of trouble, sorry. I mean, how like unselfish to say, hey, you're the one who was unfaithful, but I see you in your valley of trouble. You know, how easy is it when we feel like we're the one that's hurt or offended by our spouse to make it about us? Like, this is my valley of trouble. But instead, for him to turn the table and say, your valley of trouble, and to be able to see that if our spouse has hurt us in whatever reason, it's because there's a root issue there.
Yeah.
It's because there is a valley of trouble. And so, man, there's so much power in that.
Well, and this is all about perspective, because a valley is a low point between two high points.
Right.
And he goes from valley of trouble to gateway of hope. Same area. Same land.
Yeah.
Right? Like, but he goes from calling it a valley and a low point to a gateway between two things.
Yeah, he didn't say a valley of trouble and a mountaintop
No,
of hope.
It's the same
gateway.
thing. She's still in the same area. He just said, this is no longer a valley of trouble. This is now a gateway to get us where we need to go.
Wow.
To get us where the Lord has called us to be. When that day comes, says the Lord, you will call me my husband instead of my master. I'm not using this against you. I'm not holding this over you. You're not subject to me. I'm simply, you'll say, you're my husband, someone who loves and cares for me, not my master, someone who demands something of me. Israel, I will wipe the many names of Baal from your lips, and you'll never mention them again. I love this. He's saying the past is the past. We forget about it. We're wiping those names from our lips. I'll never mention it again. I'll never bring it up again. I don't care that you were running to Baal instead of running to me. I am wiping it clean, wiping the slate clean, that I will not hold this against you. He says, I will never mention it again. On that day, I will make a covenant with all the wild animals and birds of the sky and the animals that scurry along the ground, so they will not harm you. I will remove all weapons of war from the land, all swords and bows, so you can live unafraid in peace and safety. He's saying, I am incapable of hurting you. I am removing everything I have against you, every weapon I could use against you, every word that I could weaponize against you, everything from the past. Anything that would every other voice, every noise, every bit of family, every bit of friends, every bit of co-workers, whoever would try to speak into our marriage, speak against you, come against us, hurt you in any way, shape, or form, I am removing them from our relationship. I am removing them and protecting you from them so that nothing can by any means harm you. Right? It's what the Word of God says. And so that you feel protected and unafraid, a place of peace and safety. Your marriage should be a place of peace and safety.
Yes.
And if it's not, that is what you need to be working toward. That is what you need to pursue. Don't just pursue your spouse, pursue peace.
Yes.
Pursue safety.
Yes.
And then he says, I will make you my wife forever, showing you righteousness and justice, unfailing love and compassion. I will be faithful to you and make you mine, and you will finally know me as the Lord, or as I like to say it, you will finally know me as a husband or wife of the Lord. Like, you'll finally know me, even through all this hardship, even through everything that we've been through, you are finally going to know me as a man of God that loves you, that pursues you with the same love that God has pursued you with. That I am no longer going to hurt you. I'm not going to hold the past against you. I'm going to speak tenderly. I'm going to pull you away from the noise. All of this is just an incredible picture of how God pursues us as believers and how we can pursue our spouse.
Yeah, that's so good. So how do we make our marriage greater today? I think it's I think it's simple.
Yeah,
We
it is.
just start that pursuit. If you're not already in pursuit, it's not too late to start. Pick one of these areas that we talked about: physically, practically, spiritually, emotionally. Just pick one area and every day commit to finding a way to pursue your spouse and make them feel wanted.
Yeah, write down a list. Write down a list of what, and if you don't know how your spouse needs to be pursued, I said this earlier, ask them. Just sit down and say, hey, how can I make you feel like I love you more? How can I make you feel pursued? How can I make you feel at peace and safe in our relationship? And then write those things down and read over them every day until you complete that list that you made of ways that you want to pursue your spouse. And then use those simple things and make them habits.
Yes.
Make it a habit to pursue your spouse. Make it a habit to touch them when you walk by, or to speak to them in a way that makes them feel loved and wanted, or just to simply pursue them with an act of kindness, or to pray for them. Make these things habits of your everyday walk of life and watch how it transforms your marriage.
Yeah. We're so glad you joined us today. If this blessed you, it blessed me, man. It encouraged me today. And so if this meant something to you, we ask that you would just maybe share it with somebody else who you think needs to hear it. Maybe share it with your spouse. Listen to it together. Have healthy conversation about what that looks like for you. And we're going to be here every week. And so if you want to follow along, you can go to greatermarriage.com, subscribe there. You can follow us on social media, on Instagram, Facebook. Just search Greater Marriage and you'll see everything that we have going on. And then as always, we love you. We're praying for you. Go be great.